Hopefully, everybody, we're back. Let me see if I can actually get video on both Ken and I again, because that was fun. Apparently, my computer decided to just lose power completely, which is unfortunate because I do have I have an UPS, and so that should not be an issue. And I am concerned. That's something I may have to work on in the future to say WT with the F of what happened there, and try to figure that out. And so, yeah, that was a thing. Anyhow, we're back. So, hello everybody. That was a thing. Anyhow, I was talking about climbing rocks and mountains, and that was fun. I was talking about working out. That was fun. And I guess I will leave it at that. Ken, would you like to catch us up on anything you've been doing prior before I have a little bit of news
Uh,
for the week?
sure. Including Geek Cred.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I've got a good few things actually. First of all, I should mention that I didn't notice until the day after, but I graduated this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I couldn't sleep one evening this week, and it was at 3 a.m. and I was just sitting playing on my phone, and I was scrolling through Facebook. And I'm friends with a couple of my ex students. I refuse to have students on as friends on Facebook. I think that's morally ambiguous and a gray area I don't want to tread into.
Fair.
But once they're no longer my students, I have no problem with them friending me or whatever. That's fine. Well, I have to
Oh.
also like them.
Apparently, hold on. Apparently, well, so I don't know if the stream has truly kicked in or not. It's copy is saying that it's
Yep,
going,
the
but we're
refresh is there. Also, I'm now Qatar 2002 again.
okay. I'll fix that. Yeah. So the problem is those changes I made did not keep
Yeah, it didn't
because
save.
it
Yeah.
just died.
Um, So okay, so now the people should be listening again. Let's just give it a minute or two actually before I continue on the story because I see there's only one viewer at the moment,
Yeah, it's
probably
one
because
where
nobody's
I'm at least
refreshed.
trying to get to Twitch and it's still on my thing giving issues, but we will see. It's like
Um,
it's not registering ever. It's up and it's running, but it's not coming through on like my normal follow piece. So it is there.
okay,
Okay,
that's it going
copy's
back.
back and that's
That's the
all
number
that
speaking up.
matters.
Yeah,
Now we're ready to
that's
go.
not
Hey, Cubby is
um,
one of our longest term listeners, lovers,
for
and when it
sure,
comes to our show, so we absolutely appreciate it.
for sure. So yeah, at 3:30 on Wednesday night or something, I was as in Thursday morning, I was struggling to sleep and I was scrolling through Facebook, and I was saying that I have some friends that I used to teach who are no longer my students, and then I became friends with them on Facebook because I would never be friends with students on Facebook. I think that's a ambiguous level I would never want to tread. But once if I like them and if they're no longer my students and they friend me, I'll accept it. Anyway, a few of them were putting on Facebook saying, "Hey, I graduated," and I was like, "This is great. That's fantastic. I'm so proud of you guys." And I was liking all their stuff and everything. And then I thought about it, and I thought, "Wait, graduation was yesterday. I was supposed to graduate. I graduated." It's
So,
because once like one, I've already like my first graduation was a big deal to me because I never thought I would get a degree.
yep.
But I already got accepted into passing my PhD in November ish time. Actually, before that, it was what, July, August. So it's not exactly news to me that I'd already passed. I already have my job based on my PhD, so it wasn't that. Graduation didn't really mean anything. Plus, I knew I was going to be in the wrong country for it. I was going to be in the US, so I wasn't planning on going to a different place. So I'd already completed. And then obviously COVID hit, so I guess everybody had a virtual ceremony. But I didn't even look at that. I didn't realize that was on. So yeah, it turns out that I graduated this week. So yay.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Um, More importantly, and things that I think actually matter more, because I think that was just more. I don't understand the purpose of celebrating long after you've already passed. I think that's weird, but regardless.
For some, it's just the
Um,
actual culmination in saying that so others recognize that you did achieve that thing, especially stuff that
yeah,
takes that much
sure, but
commitment.
no, like family and friends, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice." Like after your first degree, they don't really care, right?
It's like,
They're
look
just
at
sort of
you
like,
just
"Oh,
being better than us.
Yeah, yeah. It's like you're taking it a bit farther, Ken. You're a bit of a show off now. Like, what are you doing? We don't care anymore. No, my family and friends absolutely do care. But like I know when I passed my undergrad, I put up a status on Facebook and got like 200 likes. When I passed my PhD, I put it up on Facebook and got like 10. Right?
A
Like it's not an exact measure, but it kind of explains. Like people
little
just don't. They're
bit,
like,
a
okay,
little
that's
bit.
nice. I think also because I already understands how postgraduate degrees work. But anyway,
Fair.
so that was cool. I finished a new book today. I say today, and I've not actually mentioned it in a little while what I've been reading. But I keep my updates on Goodreads.com. Feel free to add
Yes.
me there. I finished the Lightbringer series today, so that was book number 5,
Hey, nice.
which is also the longest book I've read this year at 952 pages. Um, I really enjoyed the series in general. 4 out of 5 books I gave 5 stars to. The last book I gave 2 stars to
Ooh, ouch.
because the first 4 books are like, oh, there's a magic system and it's super interesting and lots of political intrigue and spying and there's really interesting character progression and all the stuff that you really want in a good fantasy progression novel series. And the last book was more like, okay, the first half of it explains the end of the whole series, but then about a quarter of the way into the whole novel, it starts creeping up the explanation for how magic works as being the god in the universe, which just happens to be pretty much fundamentalist Christian God.
Okay.
Um, and then the last like 3 quarters of the book are all just, man, isn't God great? And it's 900 pages, so it felt like I was reading with 600 pages of 650 pages of
A
just
devotional term or something
either
like.
either God explaining why he did certain things or hand waving it away as Deus ex machina. And it felt like a bit of a cop out for a lot of the explanations of just
Okay.
how stuff happened. But also, a lot of it wasn't actually explanations. It felt like it was just trying to be like, "Oh, God's great. God is pretty fantastic." Like it didn't feel like it felt like the plot had been tied up halfway through the book, and the
Okay, and
rest of it
after that,
was
it was
just
just like
unnecessary.
beleaguering the point or something, just like continuing, like,
Totally.
why? That would
So I
be
still recommend
unfortunate.
it. I still would recommend the series to anybody. The Lightbringer series. It's a really nice, cohesive magic system. The characters have great progression and stuff. Just don't have your hopes up for the very end. It's a
Ah,
little
that makes
depressing.
sense.
It's
That makes
a
sense.
little disappointing at the end.
Okay.
I'm now reading Fight Club. I've not actually started. I put down. I've started reading it today. I downloaded it, but
I'll
it's
be curious to hear about that one because that's the same thing that the movie was based off, right?
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a 5 hour long book, so it's pretty short, which is nice. I'm now 24 out of 48 books through my challenge for the year, so I'm
Well done.
50% of the way through, and it's saying I'm currently 1 book ahead of schedule. So I'm looking for a couple of short books just to knock myself up a couple of points so that I can go back to reading ridiculously long fantasy series. Because right now it's been quite tough the past because I read those books in order, those last 5 books more or less, and they were all pretty long, and it was really tough to fit them into one a week. So I'm looking forward to having a couple of weeks where I don't have to read, at least 4 or 5 hours a day on top of everything else.
Gotcha.
I've also been giving updates about Duolingo as well, so I've been doing some of that quite a lot actually, more than I ever have before actually this week. I decided that I really wanted to top the leaderboard for the random leaderboard you get inserted with a bunch of random people.
Yep. Yep.
So right now I am sitting at 1,037 XP for my week. The guy in second place kept trying to like every day I would beat him, and then the next morning I'd wake up and he'd beat me. That happened again this
So
morning.
you're having
So
much
I
the back and forth.
yeah, just me and this one guy. His name's Dude, and he's beating me. But now he's not. I'm now in first place with 1,037 XP. He's second place with 800 and something. So I'm going to do a few more today just to make sure, because only 4 hours left. So I'm not going to let him beat me last minute. I want to be number one. I don't. Not that it matters. The top 10 in the leaderboard proceed to the next league, but I want to be number one. I'm going to do it. And I've got a total of something like 4,000 XP. Yeah, 4,600 XP overall on Duolingo. This week I've got over 1,000, and I've been doing this for months. So yeah, I went a bit overboard with that. But my German knowledge has increased massively this week,
Nice. Nice.
which has been nice. So both reading and language, I feel like I've had a lot of progress this week.
Uh,
Um, I wrote a quiz because you know how every week after the show I do a quiz with some friends back in Scotland.
yes.
I think there's about seven of us or something, six of us. One, two, three, four, five, six, eight of us, and we take turns in who does a quiz. I was the very last one to do a quiz, so it's now my turn, and I've got this really big 50-question quiz that I would love to show to you guys, but one is very long, and two, I don't know who's listening to the show. I don't want to give away the answers,
Ah,
but
gotcha.
it's nice and varied, and I look forward to doing that. And I'm happy. Maybe I'll do that sometime on a stream, and people can take part. That'll be fun. I don't know. I played a bunch of League of Legends. I got promoted twice and demoted once, so I'm currently in Bronze 2.
Okay.
So I went from Bronze 3 to Bronze 2 to Bronze 1 back to Bronze 2. And man, it sucks because I kept getting my main character banned. I played Tristana, and I got her banned twice in a row, which made me have to go Caitlyn instead as ADC, which I just both times I sucked with. I really need to get a backup ADC correctly to be able to do this. But I was right in my for months I was trying to get promoted playing support, but the truth is you can't climb as support. I do well
Support
as
would be
support.
one of the
I
most
do
challenging because
because
you
it
have
doesn't
to have a good
matter.
team. You have to have others there that are actually
Yeah,
doing it.
yeah, and it does. It's same with other roles. It still matters on your team, but to a lesser extent. You contribute. You can contribute more as an ADC. Um, I also played Firewatch yesterday from start to finish. I picked this up because it was on sale, and I was like, oh, whatever. It looks kind of interesting. It's kind of a survival game, but it's also like a story between like two people. And wow, it was pretty beautiful. It was a pretty damn good story. Really enjoyed it. I pretty much just played the whole thing in like 4 hours. Um, it's been a long time since I've done that with a game. Uh, Story driven, feels very indie. There's not much in the way of mechanics to the game. I would barely call it a video game, to be honest. It's more like
Okay.
a walking simulator with story over the top. You can make some choices, but in the end, they don't really matter. It's more about the story. It's more about the character development, and it's not that your choices don't matter. It's just that they don't change the end. Your choices matter to how to the overall story, but not to the ending.
How it plays through,
Um,
not so much the actual final piece of that.
yeah,
Okay.
what kind of person you are, and it says a lot, I think. I can maybe discuss that a bit more in detail, but I want to give people a chance to go play it first
Gotcha.
because I really do recommend this game. It's super cheap. It's like $10 or something.
Well,
It's
that's one
called
of the things
Fire
that's going
Guard,
on right now, right?
Firewatch. Sorry.
We have the
Yeah,
Steam
it's on the
sale
big summer
going
sale.
on, so if you guys haven't
Yeah.
already and don't already have massive libraries like me, check out what's on sale, and you likely pick up something for a pretty good deal right now.
Sure, and I highly recommend checking out Firewatch. It is awesome. It really is a great game. I also then, because I was in the mood for these kind of like interesting story, character development type story-based games rather than gameplay, I downloaded Life is Strange, which I already had in my library but had never played.
Okay.
I played for, let me actually check out how long I did play it for. I played it for 50 minutes and I just couldn't get into it. I
Oh,
just don't care about teenage drama. I don't give a shit about high school. I just don't want to watch it anymore. So I quit. I uninstalled it. I
that's
tried,
fair.
but I just couldn't get into it. I just don't care about the story at all.
Yeah, I like the
Um,
first Life
I,
is Strange just fine. And it was an interesting experience for me to kind of play through. Haven't looked at or don't know when the next either comes out or whether it has. But I mean, overall enjoyed it. It was an
no idea.
interesting, different kind of story, and I actually played it pretty quick.
You have more patience than I do with these interesting type of games. I'm not very comfortable outside my comfort zone. If it's not perfect, like the game just rubbed me the wrong way, and I
Okay.
uninstalled it. I'm pretty bad for that. I also installed The Long Dark, and I played it. I tried to play it, but it turns out this beautiful 5,000 by 4,000 resolution 5K monitor slash computer that is a Mac can't play it because it's not got a good enough graphics card.
Ah,
No surprise there. So it'll work fine on my laptop, but I don't like playing on that tiny screen, and I also don't like playing on without a W key. Um, and it's just a beaten up old laptop, so it's kind of this has got a Radeon Pro 580X 8 gig for everybody interested. The Mac that I'm using, so it works fine for League. It works fine for Firewatch. It works fine for most things, but the Long Dark was just a bit too much, even on low
okay.
graphics. So I'm going to go back and play that at some point. I really do want to, because it's a similar type game where you're trying to survive the Canadian wilderness and you're trying to solve a sort of mystery slash story, and it's kind of interesting. The last thing I want to mention is Tabletop Simulator.
Oh yeah.
I picked this up 2 weeks ago. and I installed it and I played around. You have a bunch of DLC that you can purchase that none of which I recognize, so I'm not interested in. The idea is it's a simulator for tabletops, right? So you can play pretty much any board game on it. But the DLC clearly they don't have the rights to sell anything proper. All the stuff that's getting sold there is kind of like unknown. I'm not saying they're
Yeah,
bad,
yeah,
but
yeah.
unknown board games. But if you're getting a tabletop simulator, you'll want to play like Monopoly. You'll want to play, I don't know, like
All of the board games that are
Catan,
out there.
right? Yeah. So thankfully, the modding community is there, and pretty much everything's out there. So I've got a whole bunch of them that look really interesting. Let me just briefly mention a few of them. Um, I also convinced Hando to pick up the game so we can play that as well. How do I see subscribed items in the account? So I picked up Texas Hold'em Poker, Munchkins with all expansions, Hero Quest with all expansions, World of Warcraft the board game with all expansions, Dungeons and Dragons board game plus all the expansions, Secret Palpatine, which is a Secret Hitler variant,
Gotcha.
Jenga, Joking Hazard, which is by the guys Cyanide and Happiness, Gloomhaven, Exploding Kittens with both decks, Risk, Fallout Monopoly, Monopoly, Cluedo or Clue in the US, Settlers of Catan, Game of Life, Cards Against Humanity, and Uno. So, all those games that are fantastically fun that cannot be legally sold, but can be modded fairly. So I've got all those, which is really neat. Hando says, "Did you look at Assemble with Care?" Hando it's not available on Mac. I couldn't install it. It's one of those things
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to do on my laptop at some point. So no, I've not looked at it yet. Um, Legend asks where my W key go. I okay, so it's a bit gross, but I was sitting at my desk at work like 2 years ago, and I was eating some food, and a bit of rice fell and like didn't land on my keyboard, but like bounced onto my keyboard because I wasn't like eating
Okay.
over my keyboard. I'm not a cretin, but it bounced over and landed on my keyboard just under the W key, and I tried to sort of like get it out with like a pen, like carefully because I didn't want to leave that in there disgusting and rotting. It pinged off the W key, and I thought I just slot back in, but it turns out I actually broke it.
Oh no.
I then looked up getting the replacement key for the keyboard, and you can only get an entire set, and you can only get an entire set if you are a licensed repair shop. So, in other words, I then phoned the repair shop, and they said £110 is how much it would cost for
Nope.
their time and the keyboard replacement because they have to pay for the whole thing. So I said, screw that. I'm just going to never use my laptop again. I'm not spending 110, basically
Dude,
$160
we could totally
for
3D
for a
print
double.
you a new cap for it or whatever, or other
It's
ones
the
like that.
casing and stuff. I don't know, man. Maybe, but I've got an external keyboard, but the problem is I then can't use all my other peripherals at the same time. Like I can't use my webcam with my microphone, with my mouse and my
I'm gonna
keyboard. I have
get
to
you
only
like
use three
the
at.
best USB hub that's managed to allow it to like.
I got a USB hub, but it doesn't provide enough power through
Well,
through
that's what I'm
one USB
saying.
2.0.
A nice solid one that allows it to have multiple, like a one that's not just plug in but powered itself, like a docking station type. I like that.
Yeah, but yeah, maybe I don't know,
No, I got
but
you. I got you, man.
uh,
That is a challenge, and that
yeah,
sucks.
it's just a minor thing, but yeah, the laptop itself is also now kind of just old and just not great. It's got a 1050 Ti in it, so it's got a nice graphics card, better than the one the Mac
Better than
has.
what I'm running.
But I doubt that.
Dude, my laptop is an old i7 that's running
Oh, your
two.
laptop.
Yeah, my laptop. Yeah, it's running two. What is it? 750 Ti's or just 750s in SLI. It's like way old, but I still game on it on occasion.
Yeah, I mean it's fine. My laptop can game most games, just not on ultra or anything. But yeah, it's just not worth the time. Anyway, that's everything I had to mention.
Okay,
I also want to say Tabletop Simulator because
we'll have to
guys, if
do
you're
because I
interested, it's on
have it
sale right
and I
now.
have it in VR, and so I'm curious to play like between people and
Oh,
stuff and how
cool.
it all works. And I know other like my brother has it as well, and we actually were talking about on some of these Zoom calls I've had with family about the potential
Right?
of doing some things through tabletop. And actually, a follow on to my geek kind of actions this week, because I talked about the physical piece real quick, is I started playing in a D&D campaign last or on Thursday through Roll20 and virtual things with some folks that are friends of mine from the past. So we'll see how that progresses from a geek perspective,
Nice.
as well as so that was one thing I had done. And then what was the other geek? Oh, my 3D print, or I have my printer that can now do color multiple things, has continued to be an interesting challenge where I've had some success, yet to get one that's truly like this is how it's supposed to work. And I put together a video if anybody is interested to see what it was for me to get this printer, get it up, get it running, and do prints with it. Um, this is a link you can go to one of my YouTube channels where I posted basically a almost 3-hour video that is a culmination of over 3 days of me unboxing, putting together, troubleshooting, trying to print, troubleshooting some more, and then eventually having some success with this new printer I got. But it doesn't end there, as I just today, after getting home, checked it, and the print I had going, which was going to be this cute little Kirby example, one of the motors, apparently because it has 4 motors in print head, fell out, and it stopped extruding that color, and instead all the color being pushed into the hot end backed up into that one end and actually fused with that filament that was trying to be pushed in and pushed it back out.
Oh, God.
In one of the coolest displays of me creating my own multicolor filament unintentionally.
Neat.
That came out of it, that I will now hopefully try to figure out. It's funny because I'm pretty sure I could just push it through again to print it, but I have to figure out the clog, put the motor back in, see why it came out, all these little things. I was just like, bonus, and that's not covered in the video, but the video will give you some idea of what it was for me to put together, and trying to do my own unboxing because I hadn't seen many done for this specific printer, and especially this new batch that just came out. So I threw that out. So those are the main things I had. I did, as we're running to the end of the show, have a couple quick things I wanted to bring up that were interesting that I saw. I didn't talk about, actually, I forgot to bring up. Maybe we'll talk about next show or something. Was it WDDC or whatever came through? The Worldwide Developers Conference for Apple basically just happened, where they're talking about their new OS, their new phone stuff, Mac stuff, like everything they're doing. And one of the big announcements from Apple is that they're going to be transitioning over the next several years away from Intel chipsets to their own homegrown ARM-based Mac silicone or Apple silicone for all their new devices. So it's going to be basically beefing up the chips that are currently coming through in their Mac or their iPods or whatever, their bigger iPads, into a desktop level / laptop level performance. And so it'll be interesting what that happens going forward. Some things with that, just new OS things coming out of there. But one of the other announcement things that came out was Pokemon did another, like, not kind of Nintendo Direct, but announcement thing that came up. And it was a surprise, I think, to most anybody who found this. I don't know if you heard about it, Ken, but a new game that got announced called Pokemon Unite that is apparently a MOBA with Pokemon.
Ooh.
And so what you need to know, this comes from, what is it, honeysanime.com, the site that was covering it, that I found that said,
it's on Switch.
Coming to Switch, yes. That will cut straight to the chase, although I think it might be more than just Switch as well, but we'll see. Because it says cross-platform. Yeah. It's that it's apparently, when this came out, everyone's like, what the heck? But it's a brand new 5-on-5 team experience, very similar to League of Legends, Dota, and other MOBA games on the market. But it's coming from Tencent, is the company producing it, which has done a few of the other programs or games out there. But it was one that kind of came out as a surprise to a lot of people, like, what? And apparently some mixed responses, because the site says that with the live reveal, it received over like 60,000 dislikes on Twitter, because people are like, what? That's not what we expected. But the crux of it is it's free to play, cross-platform, and you'll be able to grab it on either your Nintendo Switch or a mobile device. But for now, all you have to do is wait and see when it comes out. So that was kind of just a random, wherever it came from level of, yep, that's there. Hando's asking, you have 4 3D printers now? Yes, I do. I now have 4 3D printers.
That's moved from hobbyist to enthusiast, right? That's
well,
the difference.
And it was me, as I've described for others, saying, why did you pick up this new M3D Crane Quad? It's because it provides that mixing of filaments, and so the potential for full color 3D printing, although it's not that easy. Like anything, it takes some dedication and challenge, but I've done enough 3D printers now that I feel competent troubleshooting and doing these things myself. So coming into this new community, and a big shout out to the M3D Dual and Quad community on Facebook, because that's where all support and interaction apparently has gone. It's not there on Reddit. It's not there on the actual forums anymore. It is in Facebook. So I've been going there and talking to them and sharing and things like that, which is really cool. But yeah, so I have done it because I had new features, new capabilities. I like to be on the cutting edge of some things. This was one of those technologies that I hope to use as well. And like I said, it does potentially do some cool 3D prints and colors, but trying to do it to a more discrete level where I can color individual things has not worked out yet. So I'm still trying to play with and figure it out, and it's got its own struggles. The other things that I was actually going to wait until we had Octail on again to talk about Microsoft ending their game streaming. Also, subject matters that I'll bring up other ones, but one of the things I did want to talk about with Microsoft in particular is that they apparently are closing all of their retail stores across the world. And so I don't know if anyone out there ever had the opportunity to go into a Microsoft store. I know we have one here in Colorado, in Denver, in the south end of town, at one of the big malls. And I don't know if we had any others around. I knew that one. That was, I think, the other one I'd gone to. But it was a slick kind of answer for Microsoft against Apple for having a dedicated store to their brand. And it was weird, though, because Apple, right, is all Apple. And one of the conversations is that Microsoft doesn't really sell Microsoft. It sells Office, it sells the OS, sells the Xbox, and then it sells a lot of devices that use their OS. And so it was an interesting story that the hardware they had outside of the gaming for the Xbox was always various laptops. For a little while, they had a few desktops and things like that. But primarily, it was showcasing here's a bunch of hardware from various manufacturers that carry Windows as a main OS, right? And so it's kind of interesting. It was an interesting display. They had great like screens around the walls and stuff like that. So it had a bit of whiz bang feel to it, like an Apple store, but different. But I never understood its place. In fact, our store here opened when Octel and Hordak was still going on because we had talked about and tried to deal with them to do a few live broadcasts from there. And it just kind of, we did it like once and then it never really came to fruition after that. Missed opportunity, I don't know. In a way, I don't know how you feel, Ken, but for me, this makes sense as a decision in this time frame where people are trying to figure out whether it makes sense to have retail space. And so many things are happening digitally, virtually, and things like that. That Microsoft stores were already like a minimally, like, what do you even buy there kind of place. It never made sense.
I think it makes sense for them to keep a few stores open in places that they can be seen, right? Like having one in the middle of New York, on one of the high streets that everybody can see a Microsoft store just for the advertising space, nothing else. And I guess do they still do phones? Is there still Microsoft phones around? Is that a thing?
Did Microsoft OS continue for phones? I have not seen one. I'm pretty sure when I think of phones, it goes down to Android OS and iOS, and I think that's kind of it. There might be a third
when you
party
go
out there.
onto Microsoft's mobile site, it just the first thing you see is the latest from Samsung. So, yeah.
Well, again, Microsoft doesn't make hardware other than the Xbox. And so that was always one of the weird things about them having a physical store to sell products. And because physical media has so much by the wayside, it's still a bizarre thing to me in a way. I understand it, but it still just hits me wrong that new computers often don't include any kind of physical media disk or floppy drives have been dead forever. Disk drives are pretty much gone away now. You at best have slots for SD cards. And even that's not regular in desktops. And in laptops, you might have an SD slot or something like that. And so in most cases, physical media itself has gone by the wayside. So it kind of goes back to what do you sell in a store, a retail store? Like, because retail stores are for hands-on touch feel. Like, it was weird when at first Amazon stores came out as a retail place. But what do? They populate the Amazon stores with the top Amazon sold items in various categories so that people who still prefer a retail experience compared to getting things shipped can go and physically buy the thing that's very popular. And it seems to work right now. I still don't know if that's a good market. I've gone in and looked, but I've never physically bought something from an Amazon store, even though they also give you the same kind as a Prime discount member, but I can just order it online.
It's also so they can show off their latest tech as well, right? Like the whole you don't need to pay, you just walk out and it knows who you are type thing. That sort of stuff is great advertising for them, which gets their name in the media more, which makes more people go into Amazon and buy things. So again, I think any kind of physical store right now can largely be seen as useful as a mechanism for advertisements. That's pretty much it. That's the way I see it in a way. But especially now, I mean, we're already going that way, right? This is not some new thing. The high street has always been closing for the past 15, 20 years. This is always, ever since eBay first really became a big thing, and then eventually Amazon, that's just how it's been going. But now with COVID as well on top, I mean, for God's sakes, it seems like that is like the final nail in the coffin for in-person business.
It definitely is challenging the conventions we've had for a long time and emphasizing a rethinking of how we do a lot of the commerce and stuff that exists. And so yeah, it's one of those things that I think should be I believe checked out. And I've actually kind of to our earlier discussion hope we have more thoughts on what can go forward with the things that could do better going now that we know what we know and how things have been
Yeah,
happening for the past several months. So yeah, no,
yeah.
it's thing. Anyhow, it's sorry for the hiccup in the show, guys. Like I said, I don't know why all of a sudden I have an ups on the computer and it feels like it did not do its job. So I'm gonna have to check some things on my setup. But that we had the hiccup in the show. We have come to the top of us with our show today. And so I think it's good for us to get ready to end things. I don't know if there's anything else, Ken, you absolutely wanted to get off before the end of the show. There's a
No,
problematic
nothing.
thing we need to bring up, and that is that we were talking about between shows here scheduling our Star Wars discussion. And I need
Yes.
to confirm with you, Ken, on what date we had decided on because it's a couple weeks from now. It's going to be in July. But do you remember specifically which date we came up with? Because I had
Yep.
it as
I've
an
got
option one, but
it's in my calendar. It's the 12th headed down for.
the 12th?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's way earlier than I thought. All right. So
I have sent it to your Gmail as well, so it should be in your
okay,
Gmail.
cool. So two
Um,
weeks from now, essentially, not next week's show, but the show after that, we're looking at having a discussion on all of the main Star Wars movies or the whole Star Wars movie franchise that Disney has out there. And we are planning, I believe, to start early so that we have enough time to go into it because enough people are going to be joining in that show. And we want to open up the opportunity, kind of like what we did with our last call in show, for people to be able to provide some of their thoughts on things and show like short call-ins of a couple minutes to present
Absolutely.
ideas you have and do that. So with that in mind, we'll do some more direct advertising. We're going to invite some of our past friends and guests to join in with us and see who all gets together for the 12th. So right now, tentatively, and we'll see what schedule's like, I'm planning for a minimum of a 4-hour show. Hopefully that works for you as well, Ken. Starting 2 hours earlier such that we can still end at our normal time because it will be far later for people from other parts of the world. And so we're looking at starting earlier. Don't feel bad if you can't join the show that early. It'll be a continuous conversation, but it's an opportunity that if you do want to participate, be ready for July 12th for us starting at minimum 2 hours early. So instead of 2 p.m. Eastern, like noon Eastern and 5 p.m. EST. But depending on the response we get, we might even make it a little bit earlier. So we'll see how that goes. But expect to hear announcements and see that coming up here shortly. So
I should also mention that we next week we're going to have a pre-recorded segment. I don't know how long it's going to be. It could be anything from 10 minutes to 2 hours. We'll see. Of an interview with I don't want to say any names because I don't know how she wants to present herself. But a woman that I know from Scotland who has done some really fascinating work with wildlife across the world, saving animals from poaching. Conducting and assisting with surgeries and such. And her Instagram feed is filled with fascinating stuff that she gets up to. And she's going to be, I'm going to be interviewing her this coming week. And we'll have a video that we can show next week as well. So be ready for that. If you have any, if you want to email in any questions to a wildlife expert who cares for preservation of species and such, and preventing extinction and preventing poaching and such, feel free to send emails to our normal email address, btwshowx@gmail.com. That'd be much appreciated before the interview begins. Otherwise, we will be live next week, but like we will be sort of here while the pre-recorded segment plays, right? But otherwise, of a normal show, though. Okay.
nice, nice, nice. So thank you. With that, and I know we have a lot of animal fans in our group, so please feel free to reach out or get some poignant questions put together for that. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And that'll be one I think as we figured out, Ken will be doing the interview because I'll be working. So that's the logistics of it, but all good with that.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else,
All
Ken, for
right.
us? Feel free to lead us out.
Yeah. Sorry, Wayne.
No, I'm just saying,
It's
feel
the
free to lead us out, Ken. Thank you very much. Let everybody know
sure.
what they need to know about us.
Sure. Is that slight lag we've been having today is making me not hear you sometimes, and sometimes I do. It's a bit weird. But anyway, you've been listening to ShowX live on twitch.tv/VTW Showx. Thank you so much for listening, and you can email us to vtwshowx@gmail.com. You can follow us on twitter.com/Showx, twitter.com/Dead, and twitter.com/drkenread for the show, for Mr. Wayne, and for myself. You can also check us on Facebook, search for Show Space X there, and you'll find us, as well as on Instagram, we're VTW Showx there. You can find us on reddit.com/r/showx. Every single video we post, both the show and everything in between, is posted there. You can go there and comment. If in between the shows, I will see everything automatically if you comment there. So feel free to go start a discussion there. Much appreciated if you do so. We also have patreon.com/showx, where you can support the show. None of it is profit, it is absolutely non-profit. All the money goes either into charity and or helping the show stay afloat, but it does not, for example, buy us beer and wine. Sadly, we need to have a separate fund for that, possibly. As well as that, I think that's pretty much everything. You can also join us on our Discord to hang out with us and play video games. Maybe a tabletop simulator. We can get something going in the near future. Feel free to organize something amongst yourselves and invite Wayne and I. We might be interested in coming to take part, playing some Catan, playing some whatever, right? Thank you so much, and thank you for hosting today, sir. Much appreciated.
Absolutely. Always good to be on here with all of you. We appreciate you guys checking us out and joining in the conversations. Feel free to email us in between at vtwshowx@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear that feedback, both on Reddit and on the emails, as well as if there's anything we missed that you'd like us to talk about. I highly recommend you post it in one of those two places, and we'll bring it up on the show. Just like the article from Muhando that we started looking at, we'll look into it and then hopefully have some thoughts on it coming back next week. So thank you guys all. Have a good week, and we hope that you guys are doing well. Bye, everybody.